Let's talk about what's happening in Spain right now and why I care. Now, I lived in Spain for 2 years, and I didn't live in the region that's talking about civil war right now. I wasn't in Catalonia. I was in Andalusia, in the southern part of the country, Malaga, Seville, Cordoba. And there was a kind of dark history in Spain. The Spanish Civil War hadn't been that long ago. There were people alive who remembered it, and most people over the age of like 30, 35, 40 remembered or knew someone in their family who remembered what it was like to live under the dictatorship of Francisco Franco. So Spain's coming from a history of pretty bitter political divides and cultures being snuffed out, and I can kind of see the gripes of some Catalans. Now, that being said, it's a democracy, right? So can you just secede? Like, it's a little different. But imagine that a state in the United States, let's say for the sake of argument Texas, because it would be Texas, decides that they just want to leave the country. They want to be their own country. On one hand, they should have the right to self-determination. They should be able to do that. But on the other hand, they're part of this country. They have agreed to abide by our laws, right? I'm gonna go this way. So they can vote on it locally, and you can argue that it's even within their rights to take up arms and leave by force if necessary. So do Catalans have the right to do that too? Yeah, they can, right? However, in Spain it's a little different. These aren't states that all abide by the exact same constitution. They are autonomous regions that follow a national constitution, but they can also pass their own local laws and regulations. And that's essentially what they're trying to do in Catalonia. They're trying to say, yes, we follow the Spanish constitution, but not in this case. Right? So you can't... This is what a lot of the Constitutional Convention in the United States was about. Go back to Hamilton, Madison, Jefferson. They were arguing over whether the federal government or the state governments should have the most power, and those laws should be able to supersede other laws. And ultimately, in the United States, we all agreed the Constitution that we follow states that the federal government supersedes the rights of the states, but that states still have a balance of power and can fight back against the federal government in a unified way. So if 2/3 of the autonomous regions in Spain wanted to assert their independence or change the government, overthrow the monarchy, that could be done in a democratic fashion. But when one autonomous region in Spain decides that they have had enough, it raises some serious issues. And the reason it's not a clear-cut, easy conversation is because there are some legitimate reasons for staying and some legitimate reasons for going. Now, here's the issue that makes this a little more obvious for international observers or for people in Spain. Catalonia had a referendum. They had people vote. And 90% of the people who voted to leave Spain and become an independent country. But only 43% of the eligible voters turned out for that vote. So how legitimate do you consider that vote? A 43% voter turnout in the United States is actually pretty good. But the vote and the process they were voting, printing their ballots at home, it was less controlled and less supervised than a normal election would be. So how legitimate was it? In a situation like that, probably only the people who side with the issue at hand are going to go out of their way to vote for it. And polls show that a majority of Catalonians do not want to leave Spain. They want to stay unified as a unified country. And here's the other issue. The European Union has essentially made it pretty obvious that Catalonia, if they were to become independent, would have to go through all their own steps to become part of the European Union. So they're not just voting to leave Spain, they're voting to leave the European Union and kind of start fresh. And we're seeing some of the issues that are tied up with that, with Brexit and the vote in Great Britain. And it's messy. You create layers and layers of political alliances like that, and you can't just say, yeah, I'm done. You can't. And that's why you're seeing protests in the street, people being injured. But the overwhelming majority of people, and I want to make this clear, the overwhelming majority of Catalonians want to stay in Spain. So you have a vocal minority pushing for independence, complaining about taxation without equal representation. They provide about, in that one region of Spain, they provide about 21% of the tax revenue and 25% of the exports for the entire country, while occupying only 6% of the geography of the country. So it is kind of taxation without representation. And that's why, as an American who grew up in Massachusetts in the cradle of the Revolution, I can kind of sympathize with their cause, right? We fought for independence and left England, left Great Britain because of this exact issue. We threw tea into the harbor. We fought people in the woods and on the hills of Massachusetts and New England, and we did it with help from European nations. So we have our own messy history. And I can see what this minority in Catalonia is saying, but we live in a time of the world's history where hopefully we're beyond that, and we don't have to resort to a civil war to accomplish our goals, to appease the minority. And this region, Catalonia, is also driving businesses away. People who have their headquarters there are moving rather than stick with the uncertainty of what the future holds. So it's a messy issue. It's divisive. It's divided. So I'm interested in your take. What do you think? Leave some comments in the section below. Do you side with the Catalonians? Do you side with the central government of Spain? They still have a king, but he's kind of a figurehead. That's not really where the power resides. There's a prime minister. So they have a legitimate national government. Catalonia also has maybe some legitimate complaints. But I would assert that there are democratic solutions to give them perhaps greater representation rather than just resorting to a civil war. Okay, subscribe to this channel by clicking over here. And on this side, check out some of the other videos that I've made. And in the meantime, amo a mi querida España y les deseo todo lo mejor y que todo salga bien.